And it's recording, I hope. In anticipation of our married life, Tia found us a nice apartment or condo or garden flat, as it was also known, garden condo in Arcadia in Pretoria, place called Orange Court. Really a very sought after little place right in town, but also very quiet. And the price was right, 85 Rand a month. I made 250. Tia made 350. So for 85 bucks a month, and it included utilities, it was a good deal. All factors considered, life was good. We lived there for a couple of months when a friend of mine, Petron, swung by one Saturday morning. And he said, he was actually coming by and he was bragging. He says he just bought a two-bedroom condo, a two-bedroom, two-story condo in, where was it? And was it Arcadia? No, it was not Arcadia. Linwood, in Linwood. For 21,000 Rand. I said to him, come on, Pete, where you're a student just like I am. Where do you get 21,000 Rand? He said, no, he paid the deposit with his Barclay card. I said, what? He said, yeah, he's got a Barclay card and he bought it with the Barclay card. And so the deposit is taken care of. Now he's just got to get a mortgage, and that is a formality. So he bought it, and it doesn't cost him any capital outlay. He bought it with his Barclay card and the mortgage. And of course, we were pretty green with envy. You know, how could we do that? And how could we don't have a credit card, Titi, and I didn't know what a credit card was. Anyhow, we decided we're going to make a plan, and we spoke to her mom. And her mom said, my goodness, if you can get, she knows exactly where those estancia condos were. If we can get that for 21,000, you know, it's a two-bedroom, two-story, lovely sized starting place or a starter place for any married couple. She'll lend us the money, 21,000. Jessie, Tia's mom wrote us a check. I went to the bank, deposited the check, and called the bank, the real estate agent, and says, come and show me those places. And I went and I saw, okay, and Pete had estancia number 7, and we bought number 5. So there was one condo between us and Pete, which was very convenient, you know. I mean, there we are. We're neighbors for all practical purposes. And as it so worked out, Pete and I, you know, both grew up on farms, ranches. And we were always talking about ranching and farming and whatever it's ever. And there was always, this was always the topic of conversation, ranching and the ranching idea. It just so turned out that my dad sold his ranch Buffelsfontein, but then we had all the cattle, and he managed to lease another farm not too far from Buffelsfontein. And so we could move the cattle over there and not be forced to sell at auctions where people know you're in a hurry to sell or pressed to sell and not get good prices for your cattle. You know, I said to my dad, wait a minute. I got a plan. You know, you are paying a ranch manager X amount of money to look after your cattle. Why don't you pay me that money? And I will look after your cattle. As long as I can also use the arable land to plant peanuts. Because that was the in thing to do based on all the conversations that Pete and I had. Again, my father thought about it, and it's probably not too far or too far-fetched an idea. And there I was. We moved over to the farm, to the ranch. Well, at least I did, because we could not support a mortgage with just my salary if Tia had to move over to the ranch. So we agreed that she would stay in Pretoria. She would continue working at the University of South Africa. And with my salary on the ranch and her salary at the University of South Africa, where she was working, you know, we would make it. And you know, I would visit her weekends, or she would visit me weekends. But during the week, fine, we'd be on our own. Of course, this led to me being conversation starved. You know, I never saw anybody during the course of the week. And came weekends, you know, if I had friends coming over or Tia coming over, you know, we would be chatting away until the wee hours of the night. You know, the other thing that was to our advantage is my dad had all the equipment. He had the tractors, he had the planters, tillers, plows, all the equipment to do and plant peanuts he already had. So I could use them. The only snag was I had to get a loan from the farmers co-op to what we call the production loan. In other words, to buy diesel, to buy seed, to buy weed killer, whatever the case may be. The acres, it was 250 acres of peanuts. And so September we had some good rains. I managed to plow those fields, got it all sorted out. In October we got some more good rains. I could finish off the soil and I could plant. And I planted, you know, in good time, because you know they always said, you know, peanuts have to be in the ground by mid-October, so that you can make use of the full growing season. Peanuts, in America they call peanuts, in Africa they call ground nuts. But it was fun. It was fun. Yeah, and work on a ranch is not just, you know, that I planted them and then other times I won't have anything to do. Work on a ranch never ends. Never ends. You know, if it's not cattle dehorning, it's branding. If it's not branding, it's you name it. You name it. If it's fixing water pipes that are leaking, or the warthogs have dug up water lines and the dams are leaking, or they're already empty because of the pigs having dug up the water lines, and there's always something to do. Ay, 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 ay. Well, either way, it was still more fun than wearing a suit and donning an outfit with a damn suit on and be a prisoner between four walls for a day in, day out. So I was happy with that. Of course, some of the neighbors thought I was out of my mind to plant 250 acres of groundnuts because they reckoned, no, this is how where am I going to find the labor to harvest it? Because to harvest 250 acres of groundnuts would take a considerable, uh, 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 what do you call it, labor force, at least 50, 60, 70 laborers. But I wasn't too worried about that because I just felt, if I treat my father treated laborers well, I treated the laborers well, and we paid them well. So I didn't foresee a problem, and I don't never had a problem with labor. I'm happy to say that my crop was a great success. My peanut crop, to this extent that I made enough after paying my production loan and other expenses. I had enough money to use as a deposit for my own ranch, which I wanted to buy. And I looked at a place, somewhere between Fallwater and Ellisras, but I was looking for something on a river which I had some irrigation as well, so that I could have cattle, but also have some arable land under irrigation. And I found just that. Although the place that I eventually decided on did not have a house on it, and there was no electricity, of course, and two diesel engines that was used for irrigation. But for the time being, that was good. Moving from one ranch to another ranch, 80 miles apart, is no joke. First of all, we've only got one tractor, we've got two trailers, and we have to move agricultural equipment, we have to move house furniture, and then on top of it, which I was very happy about, is some of the laborers said to me, no, they're not staying here, they're moving with us. I said to him, well, as long as you just know, I'm going to be camping for the first couple of months. You're also going to be camping for the first couple of months until we get living quarters erected for everybody. No problem. I think 5 or 6 laborers and their families took off with me. I was very happy with it. Very happy with that. One thing that I must say that was a problem before I started harvesting the peanuts is the wildlife. After we started harvesting the peanuts and they were stacked in heaps to dry, in the daytime it was the warthogs that came and attacked those bloody groundnut heaps. At nighttime it was the kudus. So you can't shoot every bloody warthog, you can't shoot every bloody kudu. So what I did was I had some laborers. The only job they had was to camp in the field. Day shift, night shift. Some of them had day shift, some of them had night shift. And all they had to do was make sure that there was no kudu or warthog in the fields during either daytime or during nighttime. Okay, now we move to Drietloof. Not actually to Drietloof itself. You know, we managed to square away and negotiate with one of the neighbors who had a second dwelling that he wasn't using for us to occupy while we were building a place on Drietloof, which came in very handy. Now, developing a ranch takes a lot of blood, sweat, not so much tears, but rather a hell of a lot of money. That I found out very soon. Very soon. And as soon as I got there, of course, I had to start working and preparing the land for the following season. And Tia took over the responsibility of, between her and our brother in law, Len, who was an architect, to design a house. We started out with a little modest place, 2 bedrooms, open plan, kitchen, bathroom, upstairs room, bedroom, and that was it. And of course, yours truly, being the plumber, screwed up with the plumbing because the first time that Tia checked it, they tested out the toilet that had warm, he flashed hot water. But anyhow, that was it. I fixed it very quickly. Ah, shame. And then, we soon found out that she was pregnant. And we were visiting my parents a bit down the line. And Tia was in the bathroom. And when she came back into the living room, her eyes were as big as two dining plates. Wanted to know what was wrong. Nope, her water just broke. Okay, there we go, off to the hospital. I know it was 8 o'clock when that happened. So now, of course, when you're very inexperienced, it's an emergency and it's an emergency. And when we got there, they checked this and they checked that. And they said, no, she's not dilated this much yet, so blah, 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 whatever that meant, okay, they know what they're doing. And that was 8 o'clock that night. The following day, I don't know, but that woman was in labor for so long. I know that it took upteen attempts for the gynecologist to get that damn baby out. And it was 2 o'clock before. She was in labor for 24 hours. And at one stage, he said to me, and I'm there, and he said to me, well, he's going to try one more instrument delivery. And if it doesn't work, he has no option but to do a cesarean. I said, well, I'm not here to give orders. I do what I'm told to do, and you do what you're supposed to do. He took the poor girl, she had nothing left in her anymore after 24 hours in labor. She gave it one very last effort, and that baby came out. But his head was all bloody warped and skew from the forceps or whatever you call it. And well, I was just glad. There I was. I had a little boy. Yeah. Wait a minute. I'm just trying to figure out if I missed something here. Huh? No, 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 no. Okay, oh no, but when he was eventually when he came into this world, they usually take that baby and just give him a slap on his butt, just to have him breathe and whatever. I told the doctor, no, he must give him another bloody slap just for having make his mother suffer for so long. And of course, everybody laughed about that. Okay, now Faalwater. You've been to Faalwater. Faalwater is one of those little one-horse towns. I always used to joke if you come to Faalwater or visit Faalwater. On the one side it says, "Welcome to Faalwater." On the other side of the sign it says, "Hope you enjoyed your stay." But anyhow, as I say, Tia was in charge of the building of the house, etc., etc. And of course, a lot of the stuff was not always available at the local farmers co-op, and which meant that Tia had to drive to Pretoria very often to go and get this and get this, and often it was, more than one trip a week. And there, very soon, she got the Tswana name of Matsileng, mother of the road. Well, either way, she did a damn good job of it. She got all the stuff together, and we had a company called Thatch Roof Construction who did the roof work for us, the thatching, and eventually we got to move into our little new thatch cottage, if I can call it that. One day, and then I got a call from my neighbor, who we used to would not rent, where we used to live in his house while building our house. He gave me a call and said, "Yeah, I owe him $200." I said, "For what?" He says, "You told me that you wanted a horse, and so I bought you a horse. It's at the cattle auctions in Faalwater. Come and get my truck and go and get it, but you owe me $200 for the horse." Oh, what could I say? Yes, I did say it, but $200 for a horse is not a lot of money. Well, when I saw the horse, I knew it was a good deal. When I saw the horse, so I was happy about it. What a horse it was! I called him Seun, which is son in English. Seun, the Afrikaans word means son, because the damn thing was like a son to me. He loved swimming. He loved swimming. I would often just jump on him bareback with the reins, of course, and we would go swim in the river. And very often swimming from the one side to the other side. And if I sat on his back and I felt that his front legs uh, dug in, and then no, the other way around. I was very often I would actually hold on to his tail while he was swimming, and when I felt that his front legs was hitting solid ground, I just pulled myself onto his back, and there we went again. And this damn horse, I loved him. He was exceptionally good with rounding up cattle. There was no ways that he would any steer or heifer get away, or whatever the case may be. If he was rounding up cattle, you better know your seat on that horse. But he eventually, unfortunately, contracted a disease known as strangles. And I checked out the more common word for it would be equine distemper. And no, it was too advanced. There was nothing that we could do for it. And the local vet told me, no, there's only one way. So I led the horse to a nice shady spot, and I shot him. And then I went to sit in the shade of a tree And I sobbed for what must have been best part of the morning. What a super host that was. Now, I must also just say, I'm talking about raising cattle and rounding up cattle. I used to speculate with cattle. My favorite way of speculation was buying cows with calves at the hoof. In other words, calves that were unweaned yet. I bought the cows with calves. And I would keep the cows and the calves till the point where I would be able to wean them, where I would separate the cows and the calves. Well, best as I could, so they when you separate them, that they can't hear each other. Others gonna be a balking and a bloody. You're not gonna sleep that night with the calves calling for their moms and the moms calling for their calves. Anyhow, so that was how I did. And after when the calves were weaned, I would fatten the cows again. They would, of course, put on weight very quickly after they were not burdened by raising calves. So what I would do is I would sell the calves. And to a large extent, I managed to have the cows as my profit. And Tia did it just the other way around. She started out by using her, I don't know, let's call it something like a 401k, which she cashed out. And what she did was she bought young calves that were already weaned. And she would just raise them for another 4, 5, 6 months and sell them. And very often she would double her money. And that was, she believed in her system, I believed in my system. But I can to this day say I have never, ever lost a penny on livestock or with livestock or because of livestock. It's a different story when it comes to cash crops. We'll get to that a little bit further down the line.